Okay. Wonderful. Excellent. Right. I think for this one, I might put like a little class to keep the. There's no stairs over on this side. All right. I know there are. Okay, good. I forget. You're a pirate. You do what you want. Pretty much. All right. I think we have a few minutes. Right. Sounds good. Yeah, we got 6 minutes. Cool. Great. Thank you. I should have left the jacket off. Oh well. You can take it off. I know. Again, I know. But it's pretty. It is pretty. So. It is pretty. I will just use my fan. Yeah. All right. Hello at the back of the room. Hello, my darlings. Won't you come up closer so I can, like, you know, charm you, compliment you? You're delightful. That's really good. Thank you for humoring me. I know where we want to sit back. So.
Do you remember me?
Oh my goodness. Now that you're closer and I can actually see you. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Thank you. No, all the way back there? No, absolutely. I could not tell who you were, even with bifocals. That's how old I am. It's very difficult being 357.
I know. But you don't look a day over.
Unicorn water. It's the best skincare regimen I've ever had. It's not even sponsored by unicorns. It is maybe sponsored by the Mages Guild. But it absolutely has preserved my youth and vitality. Unicorn water. Thank you for humoring me even more.
We got about 5 minutes and then we're good.
Yes.
Do you want me to refill that before we start?
Yes. I need more unicorn water. Thank you. So I hear we have a few minutes. And so we are going to just sit here and charm you and chit chat while we are waiting, because we were early birds, as we like to be, right? Yeah. Captain Azar, she knows I'm about to take us in weird places. Along for the ride.
On for the ride.
Yeah. So I'm very happy you're all here because it's the end of the second day. And as you get closer to the end of the day, it's sort of nice to think about, I don't know, going home, taking your shoes off, putting your feet up, harassing your cats if you have those. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we have. So good to see you again. I'm so happy you're here. Your shirt is so cute too. I mean, not as cute as you are though. Right now. You're cute as a button. Thanks. Thanks for picking up the message, as it were. Interestingly, I've had a few people go, "Oh, you're such a good ally." Yes. Do I need more rainbows? And honestly, I have them underneath, more rainbows. So,
and your petticoat.
and my petticoats, and the bustle cage. I just keep adding
All the
more rainbows.
rainbows.
It's not coming through. Let me add more rainbow. Yeah. I don't know. I think rhinestones, really.
I can hook you up with rhinestones.
Yeah, maybe I just need to put rainbow rhinestone. Yeah, no, this is not enough sparkle.
It's very rainbow.
Thank you. Also, I think my cut crease was like on point today.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I still have not figured out how you manage that.
I will show you.
Okay.
It was not that hard.
Sounds good.
Yeah. How are we doing on time?
We are 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
So we're good.
All right, good. So thank you, second row people. See you. I appreciate you. You're delightful. Thank you as well. You are ineffectively the third row, which is also good. I know why you're back there. I forgive you. I understand.
Like, I'm behind the camera.
Yeah. No, you're safe.
Being on the right side.
You're good.
No, I mean, I feel sometimes thrown a kilter by the left side, but I keep going there like a hussy. So, as one does. Oh, it's going to be a good.
It's going to be a good panel.
It's going to be great. I'm very, very excited. So we are streaming the panel to YouTube. And so if you enjoy it, you can review it later. Or if you're like, that was pretty good, you can share it with your friends. If you're like, that was ridiculous, I must mock them, please just credit us in any videos marking us. We just, at that point, we're in it for the exposure. Yeah. So, but we will accept mocking, of course. Yeah. With that warm up, is it time?
We got one more.
One more.
One
more
minute.
minute. Next thing I have to make up songs. So
I mean, you are an opera singer.
no, I'm a failed opera singer.
Okay, fair enough. But girl, I have heard you sing.
Oh yes, I mean I can carry a tune.
Yes, you can.
They did not wash me out of opera school for lack of pitch, which is fortunate. But if you're a lyric soprano, I mean, I say this, and people are like, surely not. I say, well, I was really a mediocre. And people are like, oh, no. I'm like, do you know how many lyric sopranos are? Do I seem like Kiri Takanawa to you? Because I am not. That's the exceptional end. Mediocre's pretty good.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, and then they ask me, who is Kiri Takanawa? And I weep into my teacup. Yeah.
We're good.
We're good. All right. Great. And without further ado, let us introduce ourselves and welcome all of you to our panel. Take it away, my darling.
Okay. In the steampunk community, I'm known as Captain Azar. In my boring, normal day-to-day life, Andrea Reese. I help out with Temporal Entourage, Tucson Steampunk Society, T-Scouts, and all kinds of wonderful, inclusive shenanigans that we've gotten into over the years.
So many. We love the shenanigans. And hello, I am Madame Askew, and that's all you're ever going to know about me. I am a professional cheeky strumpet. I roll with this delightful creature. We run the Tucson Steampunk Society. We are part of the T-Scouts organization, and the Temporal Entourage sort of grew out of my performing career with my bestie, the Grand Arbiter. And so that's sort of my steampunk CV in a nutshell. Yeah.
Okay. And in the steampunk world, I'm Mathematica, and I help out. Thank you. I help out this cheeky strumpet with her tea team and other shenanigans. And I'm a chaos gremlin. You never know what I'm going to be up to. Online, I'm Sarah Blood Creations. So if you've seen anything related to that, that's me. In real life, I'm Dr. Magnuson. I go by Sarah most of the time, but I'm a physical therapist over at TMC and joke that my job is annoying people by hauling them out of bed and making them walk. So one of my friends is in the back and is laughing because she knows that that's exactly what I do.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah Mathematica. Right.
You told me to introduce myself that
Yeah, no, I did. Good job. I'm proud of you. This panel is about self-care and respecting yourself and also navigating, having limitations and still having a creative life. We're all spoonies on this panel. If you know that term, it resonates. If you don't know the term, that's fine. We will explain. We will even explain before you have to remind us to explain. So, Captain, would you like to talk about some of your challenges with life that get in your way creatively?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Let's see. No, I'm like, oh, those pesky things getting in my way of being creative. Let's see. I was a late diagnosis of ADHD. So that was fun. It was kind of an eye opener, wondering why I was always the different kid. And then it was like, oh, okay, that doesn't change anything, but it's fun to know that I got a little thing there. I also have some physical limitations. So that means that there are times when, I have arthritis, it flares up. That's going to be a fun adventure for that day. And some other physical limitations that sometimes get in the way, and learning how to navigate that so you can still enjoy things and come to conventions and do fun things, but also take care of yourself. Yeah.
Okay. So I also have ADHD, and that's part of why I'm a chaos gremlin, because ADHD brain occasionally goes, "Hey, squirrel," or "Oh, shiny," and there it goes. I also have PTSD, and I'm immunocompromised. Was born with essentially missing half of my immune system, and so I get sick easier than most folks do. And when I do get sick, it tends to hit me harder. So that's sometimes very fun when I've been sick for a long time. So,
and I have OCD, and probably drive both of you crazy sometimes. I'm like a recovering, attempted to recover perfectionist. That's really hard. I have generalized anxiety disorder and CPTSD, and I once fell off a cliff on a very bad date, and now I walk with a limp. And so these are some of my limitations when I'm trying to be creative. So, all right, I'll sort of drive the cart.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
They're like, yes.
We're used to you driving the cart,
Yes.
and you just tell us where you need us.
Yeah. Well, all right, good. So we're all spoonies, and we are all still also desperately creative people. We make costumes, we host events, we create all kinds of art. And a few months ago, we were talking about sort of this journey of trying to find tools and resources that help us to be creative people despite our challenges, and how we wanted to share some of that with people at different conventions and in creative spaces, because there's a lot of sort of figuring it out on your own or reverse engineering, and we'd like to help people at least get started on a right foot. So for all of us here on the panel today, I want to ask you, what are a couple of your favorite tools that have helped you adapt your space for being creative?
So space adaptation. Okay. So I make sure that my chair and my workspace is ergonomic. My previous career, we were trained on ergonomics. And to this day, anytime I get a new space, I make sure that I'm going to be set up for success, and that I'm not going to be wondering, why is this weird twitch on my side while I've been sewing for hours. So I try to make sure that I make a good ergonomic space. I'll make sure that I try to have my items, being ADHD, and make sure that I don't tuck them into drawers or something like that, the whole out of sight, out of mind thing. And then you're like, where are my pinking shears? And they were there the whole time. So I like to kind of have a pegboard, have all my stuff there so I can easily see it. And I tend to try to keep my space as tidy as possible, because then the clutter will like ratchet up my anxiety. And then that just makes for no fun. So yeah, some of the things that I try to do in my workspace.
Thank you.
For me, one of my favorite things that I've done with my workspace is I have a tall cutting table. So I'm on the taller side, and a regular height table is too short for me to use if I'm using it as a cutting table. It ends up bothering my back, doesn't work well, especially if I'm doing a lot of cutting. And I don't really like putting fabric on the floor if I can avoid it, because I'd rather not be crawling around. And also, if it's on the floor, it is within dog reach, and my dogs really like to help, not really actually helping. Now up on the cutting table, the cat likes to lay on it, but I can at least pick the cat up and move him. But one of my friends was redoing their workroom, and their husband had made them a cutting table, and we realized that it was too tall for her, but it was perfect for me. So when she was redoing it, I'm like, I'll buy that from you. How much do you want for it? And that's been one of my favorite adaptations to my workroom. I also have a futon in my workroom, which that way, if I'm like getting overwhelmed or if I am just tired and I need a break, I have a quiet spot already there where I can just sit, take a break, or take a nap if I need to. Usually my dogs have commandeered it, and it's like, oh, this is mine now. But I can shove them off the futon. It's like, okay, you need to move long enough for me to take a nap. And I try to have the tools that I use on a regular basis within arm's reach of my sewing machine. That way I can just turn and it's like, okay, they're right there. I don't even have to get up, which has been super helpful.
Thank you. So I was very fortunate a couple of years ago. Many of my friends came together to sort of redesign and rebuild my workspace to be more adaptive, as I was having more and more issues with my limp. And so they built for me a cutting table and an ironing station on electric legs that raise and lower. And that has been such a brilliant change for me. It's made a lot of difference. But also, someone reminded me that I could just sit on a stool and cut. And I had felt like I wasn't allowed to sit while I was cutting or ironing or pressing things, like there was some sacred bond of sewers where you're not allowed to sit. And getting a stool that could mesh with my tables and not having to stand and do the work all the time really made a huge difference for my quality of life, and also the level of energy and precision I could bring to this sort of essential aspect of sewing, cutting fabric. So I'm really grateful for that pairing of the raising and lowering table and the stool. The other thing is kind of a weird one, or at least I think my need for it is weird and singular to having OCD. So I have a label maker. And so you might be thinking, oh, she labels everything. No, I just label the homes of places, because I do like to work with my friends and have them over. But I will lose my mind if things do not go back to their homes. So I need everyone to know where the home is, because it's not fair to expect my friends to have the map of the world in their brain that I do. And so instead, I'm just like, put in the drawer that's labeled Y, and it helps everybody. So I label everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love naming things. So that's a bonus. But yeah. So we've talked about some of our highlights for things we've done to change our space. And some of that has also been giving ourselves permission to change our space. Would you share something, a hack, some change that you have done that you initially felt like you weren't allowed to do? Like there was some cultural pressure that you were not allowed to do this, and making that change just absolutely changed. I'm using change a lot. Absolutely altered your experience as a creative person.
Let's see. Again, like I mentioned, I have arthritis and I sometimes have joint pain. So being adaptable, like we're not necessarily historically accurate, like more historical adjacent or inspired by. So a lot of times when you look at these patterns, they're like, well, you need to do hooks and eyes. You need to do this fussy type of way. And there's frequently times that I'm like, I'm going to put a zipper in, I'm going to do something different, maybe Velcro, something that's going to be easier for me on those days when maybe my arthritis is flaring up, but I still want to be able to get in and out of my costumes, and I still want to be have an enjoyable experience without having like a panic attack because whatever reason I can't get the costume off at the end of the day. So doing that, like being able to just adapt the pattern to what's going to work for me, and then just kind of knowing that, well, this is one way you can design it, but it's okay for me to come up with my own design. Just like I'm creative with how it looks, it can also be creative with the accessibility. So that was a game changer for me.
I'm totally blanking on most of the things that I would mention, but one thing that is actually related to the costume I'm wearing right now. So I get overheated sometimes, and when I get overheated, I end up getting very overstimulated and I lose spoons very fast. Thank you, Lori. She's shutting the doors.
Good.
Yeah, the noise level went up exponentially,
Yes.
and I'm like, I can't hear you, and I'm right next to you.
So when I get overheated, I lose spoons very rapidly. This jacket is actually modular. So I can totally remove the sleeves and still be able to wear just this portion of the jacket. And so if I'm getting overheated, I can take off the sleeves, but if I still want to wear the jacket, I can. There is a power mesh panel in the back of this, connecting the sleeves to each other. And then I have hooks and eyes along the front of the armholes here, so that the sleeve hooks into the jacket so that you don't see the mesh, but I can still take that out if I need to, which helps me adapt to the environment a lot easier. That way I can not overheat and not end up having a meltdown. And I am much happier because of that. And I stumbled across that within the last year, I think. I discovered that that's actually how Marvel does some of their costuming. Like in the Loki series, Sylvie's suit, it's actually built with a bodysuit. So like the sleeves are attached to a bodysuit, and then the part that's on her torso that is visible, that's actually a separate piece. But they did that so that she could have full range of motion. Also, she was a nursing mom, and that made it possible for her to feed her kiddo without getting completely out of costume. But I'm like, if this works for the Marvel MCU, it's going to work for me.
Yeah.
So, and most people have no idea that that's how this jacket is constructed.
It's so genius. It's such a cool change. And I love your share as well. Like, I think a lot of it is that no matter where you are at, it's going to be very idiosyncratic to find the things that work for you. And so I love that each of us has a sort of different experience, so we can share some of our unique adjustments to give you kind of an idea of the diversity of options. My changes have been a lot about accepting that tenacity is not always the right choice. I really appreciate the laughter from my chums who've been part of my journey of accepting help.
You
And
have also reminded us of this.
Yes.
I know, but it's easier to tell other people to do nice things than to do them yourself. So learning to accept help, learning to admit my own limitations. Again, recovering perfectionist, type A person, very driven, and often rewarded for that behavior deeply. And sometimes that was all I got rewarded for. TMI. So it's hard for me to let go of the sort of shame and guilt and negative emotional feelings I have around admitting that I get tired, or that I need to take breaks, or maybe that I'm only 5'3" and should really ask my tall friend to do tall person things, and that there will be no secret service of the sewing world that appears in my workshop to tell me, no, you must learn to make stilts. You cannot ask for help. because once upon a time I would have made the stilts instead of asking for help. So for me, there's a lot of like accepting that I need help and that it's okay for me to ask for help in the same way that I tell other people it's okay for them to ask for help and accept support. Feel called in, not called out. Yeah, so good. So, Captain Azar, did you have a thought?
No.
Okay,
I was
good.
just enjoying your
Okay,
your
you took a
lovely.
breath like you're about to like, and I'm so bad at cutting you off.
No. I was just like, deep breath. This is nice.
Good. This is fine.
You actually reminded me of something that I would have mentioned a little bit ago, where you mentioned it's like, okay, recognizing, hey, I do get tired and things like that. Sometimes with me, ADHD brain just makes me squirrel to the point where, oh, hey, the costume didn't end up getting done. So this costume has actually been a 2-year process, partially because I have squirreled and worked on other things. But when I had initially meant to have this done for another event back in July, I didn't have all the embroidery done. And it's like, okay, you know what? We're going to focus on just getting it to the point where I can put it on. And then we'll do the embroidery later. I also hadn't done any of the aging on the skirts or anything like that. Hadn't sewn on the trim. It's like, all right, let's get it wearable. And then we can add the trim afterwards. And I actually have added it. I didn't completely squirrel and go, oh, I'll do that later. And later never happens. Later did actually happen this time. The trim is now on there and the aging has happened. But giving myself permission to finish part of it. And even if I didn't get everything done, I can always finish it for the next event or add more detail as I want to. So
I think that's an excellent point. Or giving yourself permission that if the costume doesn't come in together in time, that's okay.
Mhm.
And you can always wear it to another event. You could always wear it to something else, and that it's okay if it doesn't get finished, or if it doesn't get finished and it's not what you envisioned in your head, and maybe along in the journey, it turns into something entirely different.
Yes.
But that's okay. You're like, you know what? I'm going to accept that. I'm still going to go and have a good time. I'm still going to enjoy the event, enjoy being with people that I care about. And you know what? No one's going to judge me if I'm wearing a outfit that I got from, a really cool mercantile, or that I'm wearing the same outfit I wore to a different event. Nobody's going to shame me for that. And I think that's very freeing, and it's you're not having that pull, but we've all done it, that sewing at 3 a.m. for the convention, and then you got to get in a car and drive at 8. We've all done it, but I think it's very liberating to be like, okay, that's fine.
I was very proud that I did not do that this time.
So proud.
I actually slept last night.
So proud. No, but let's talk about this for a minute, because I think that this gets to something that perfectionists deal with, that people with OCD, ADHD, whatever thing, you can feel this hyper-focus or this drive or the desire to do the thing, no matter what the cost. And so, I'm going to talk about 2 parts to this,
Okay.
and one part is going to be about all of us.
Okay.
So a few years ago, I stayed up until 7 in the morning finishing a costume where I had to be on site, ready to go at 9 a.m. And it was a 45-minute drive to the site. I was going to perform all day till 2 a.m. the next morning in a costume I'd stayed up at 7 in the morning to finish. And I did it. I did this thing. I wore the costume, and it's beautiful, and I love that costume, despite fit issues that are not a surprise when you're sewing overnight like that. But I made everyone miserable by the end of the day, including myself. I was so knackered. My poor performing partner had to bear the brunt of my absolute meltdown. And it was at that point I was like, I have to stop this. This is unkind, not just to me, but to my friends, my colleagues, the people I work with, that I say I respect. It's not just that I'm wasting my time and harming myself, but this obsessive behavior is going to harm people I love too. And so I made a deal with myself. If it's not done the day before, either I wear it as it is or I don't wear it, no matter how much I want to. Like, I will break that rule if it really is like 4 hooks and eyes that I need to sew on. That's an hour's worth of labor. But if I'm like, no, I just need to install the sleeves and the collar and then like line it and bind off the edges. No, that was the lie I told myself. It was a bad lie. So I made that firm commitment. And sometimes you have to set boundaries for yourself. And it's for yourself as well as people you love. But I also have amazing friends with whom I do costumes, and we were going to do like a group thing. We're not going to tell you what it is because you have to wait until you get to see it. But we had this ongoing conversation where we checked in with each other, and we were all honest with each other. And we kept each of us, and there are 4 of us, each of us kept having a disaster. Over the summer, we started feeling like it was cursed. But we all kept agreeing what mattered was having fun together.
Mhm.
What mattered was going to the event, not killing ourselves. And we would wear it in the future. And I think finding friends who understand and will support you is also another important tool to look for. If you are hanging out with people who are like, no, you should totally kill yourself. Like, that's a flex. Let's do it. They're not supporting you. Yeah. Boy, I really ranted with that one.
No, it was good.
Okay,
it was
good. All right. So, how are we doing on time? Okay, good. Want to make sure you get time to ask questions is why I check in. So, right, we talked about what even spurred that commentary on.
I don't remember, but we do need to explain spoon theory.
All right, let's
there you
talk
go.
about it. You want to take it away?
I can attempt to. So spoon theory, it's kind of, I also describe it as like how much bandwidth you have, or if you're a gamer, how many spell slots you have. So you have certain number of spoons at the beginning of the day. And if you have disabilities of any sort, whether it's mental, physical, whatever, no matter what kind, you probably have fewer spoons than able-bodied people do. And as you go through the day, you use spoons to accomplish different tasks. Another way to look at this is, so like for the bandwidth, your average person without any disabilities, they're running high-speed internet. Whereas somebody with disabilities, well, they might still be dealing with dial-up. And so you don't have as much bandwidth to work with. So you run out of it faster. Same thing with spell slots. Certain tasks might take like 3rd level spell slot. Some things might take a 2nd level spell slot or a 1st level. Some things might be a cantrip, and you can do those over and over again, and it doesn't have any cost. And some things, if you have chronic disabilities, might take a higher level spell slot than it would for somebody without that. And so that's kind of where it's come from. But.
So we're all spoonies. I don't think we go around calling ourselves that particularly, but we do talk about our sort of singular need to watch the amount of energy we have every day, to look for these things that can sort of streamline the experience and also support us creatively. And that's what we're here to talk about, is not only like some of the adaptations we've made, but some of the ways we support the creative process. So, Captain Azar, start with you, you beautiful minx. What is a sort of technology or physical like management tool that you use to help navigate this as a creator? Do you have like a project management system? Yeah.
Up until recently, I had a pretty good sized whiteboard in my crafting area. And then when I started to have a idea or a project, I put, okay, what are those pieces for this project? What are the different types that I need to do? If it's, let's say, something like this, okay, well, I'm going to need a jacket. I'm going to need a shirt. I'll need a skirt. And so then I would put that on the board, and it would be like make, buy, reuse, like something I already have in my arsenal that I could just go ahead and reuse. And I put it up there so visually I could see, okay, there's a lot of items in the make area. So then I need to start getting ready to figure that out. And then I would try to timeline it. How long do I think it's going to take me to make this? And then I'll tack on some extra time on there. And then I give myself kind of a little bit of a timeline. I'll use my Google Calendar to kind of give myself these little benchmarks. And then that way, if I know, hey, I've missed 2 benchmarks already, maybe this costume isn't going to get done. And recently, I've kind of gone away from the whiteboard, which was great. But now that I got my pegboard, there's, you know, I put so many whiteboards on the wall. So I've actually started using Trello. We used to use it at work. So I started using Trello, and I kind of like the little cards and being able to move things around and doing that kind of stuff. And I think there's also like Monday.com, and there's a couple other ones that are for like a costumer, the free version is just enough that you need to be able to use it effectively. So I've done that, kind of went digital. And then I can have it with me. So if I'm in the, you know, I can put swatches on there. And if I'm at like, you know, looking at fabric, then I can have it in there. And I even have like yardages and stuff. So yeah, it's made life so much easier rather than going, I know I wrote it on a Post-it note somewhere, how much fabric is in this. I guess I'm going to have to take this 6 yards. Now I know it's 6 yards of fabric and measure it out. And then I tell myself, so what are you working on? So I get that Joanne feel when I'm in my craft room.
Oh, I love that.
What am I working on?
I like that. So I actually also use Trello, but the way you use it sounds almost more helpful than what I do. So I will create like a board for each project, and I'll break it down by like the different elements. So for like this cosplay, I had like jacket, skirts, corset, wig, and I reused the wig from another project, so I didn't have to create that, thank goodness, because this took a while. But I would write out all of the different steps that I knew that I needed to do. So like for the corset, I needed to make a mock-up, pattern the hip fins, figure out the color blocking for the dragon scale sections, source the leather that I was going to use. So I tried to write down every single step that I could think of. That way, when I go to my workroom, if say I have half an hour and I do not have the spoons to figure out a task that's going to take me half an hour, I can look at the list of things as like, okay, where I'm at in this process, I can get this task done, I can get this task done, maybe this one in like the time that I've got. And because I've already got all the steps written out, I don't have to think of like, okay, what steps do I still have to do? Because I'm marking them off as I do them. Theoretically, I don't always remember to do that. But that way I can kind of look at it as like, okay, I can try to get this done during this time window. And it kind of takes some of the brain power out of it. Or like, I don't have to think about it as much. I can just go, oh, I need to do this. Okay, cool. That's what I'm going to work on right now. And so that helps keep me a little bit more organized. I'm not as good at keeping track of like, oh, I got this fabric for this project. So that actually would be a really helpful thing to incorporate now that you mentioned that.
Yeah, because then sometimes you'll go through your bags or you'll go through boxes and go like, what was this fabric for? And then you're like struggling to figure it out. And then you're like, well, I'll use it for a different project. And then you realize that, no, you're like 2 yards short from this other project, but you have just enough for the original project, which you forgot about.
Yep. Have done that. So, or just gone, I don't remember at all what I was going to use this for. Guess we're doing something else. So I've also done that.
Thank you. Thank you both. Yeah, so I don't use Trello, and now I want to.
You would like it.
It sounds amazing. I usually make my own sort of like vibey little checklist that I work with. And checklists are a danger zone for me. I have OCD and I'm a perfectionist. And it's like, throw down the gauntlet, make the most epic checklist ever. And then I proceed to make it grueling and terrible. So I have to be really careful about how extensive a checklist I make. And I usually keep it to one project at a time, because otherwise I can really get little over ambitious. Thing I do to try and manage my ambition is that I limit myself to number of projects per year. And so I know you just raised your eyebrows. Yeah, you're so darling. I do adore you. But my projects are things that take hundreds of hours. So limiting myself is not really limiting my creative output. It's just saying, yes, you're going to do hundreds of hours on 3 different frocks. Or if you're good, I have this conversation with myself almost like this. If you're good and job and you finish all 3 and you have time left over, you can pick one of the special projects you've been wanting to make. And so I always have reserve projects where I'm like, this is the reward project. If I'm very good, I get to make a tea gown for funsies.
You and I operate similarly in that.
Yeah.
Although you do more builds than I do, I usually do 1 big build per year.
Yeah, I do 2 to 3 every year, and I'm building for myself and my bestie, so that's like 6 big ensembles. So limiting myself in that way is still a very aggressive build schedule.
Yeah.
But I have to have that limit, and I have to have the dream list and the main list, and then I have to have my little checklist that's vibey. And then the other thing I do for myself is I make a sketch of the project. And it gives me a little bit of like, oh, right, this is why I want to suffer. And I will love this thing. And so when I'm having a hard perfectionist OCD moment, I go and I look at the sketch. I'm like, look at this. You can make it. And look, you draw like rubbish. So the real thing is going to be so much more beautiful. So totally be perfect. It'll be better than the sketch.
Also relate to that one.
Yeah. We're at
I
15
can't
minutes.
draw clothes at all. I can sew them though.
Yeah.
So
I use digital croquis because I can't draw either. So then I'll like just do some creative
I have
engineering.
a croquis sketchbook.
Yeah.
And that has been a lifesaver.
croquis are like little, androgynous models that with no face, no feature that you can draw clothes on. Sort of makes the human body for you. It was one of those terms where I'm like, we know what we're talking about, but you may never have heard it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's nice.
Hello. I feel like
Do we need to move?
door.
Here, is it a?
I don't know. It could be that they dimmed the lights next door. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Well, vibes. So
Marshall.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. I was going a place and then I was really distracted.
Right? The mood lighting kicked in, and then we're like, oh, this is a vibe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's brighter than before.
Right?
Yes. You were
These are the
talking
house
about
lights.
Oh, I was just explaining about
Yes.
croquis. But what I was really going to get to is that we have about 15 minutes left. And so if you have any questions, now is your time to ask them. Otherwise, we will continue to be very cheeky.
We'll probably continue being cheeky anyways.
Yes.
Definitely. But we'll be cheeky with our own direction. Yes.
I do have a question for you.
Yes.
I know somebody who has similar perfectionist tendencies
Yeah.
that I think they're kind of unaware of.
Mm.
Still has the same negative impact on them and the people around them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any way to like gently inform somebody that maybe they might have an issue like that they can address?
Boy, that is a very pertinent, valid question, and also difficult. So, it's very individual. And I know that one of the things that worked for me was my bestie just reminding me in his beautiful millennial way, because he's so in touch with his emotions and he'll talk about them and process and share. Anyway, so he reminds me all the time that I don't need to be perfect. Or he'll say, you're absolutely perfect and you've never done anything wrong in your life. So of course it's perfect, no matter what your brain is telling you. Or he'll say, you are not the value of what you produce. And I'm like, you're wrong. It's my only value and it must be perfect. He's like, Cassie, go to therapy. But he's nicer. But sometimes you just have to mirror back to people kindness and remind them, and hopefully they start to go, you keep saying this. Is there something? And then maybe you could be like, yes, I'm concerned for you. You don't have to be perfect. In fact, perfection is unattainable. And also perfection is for robots and AI. And we don't like that here. So you don't want to be perfect. You want to be human. Yeah.
That's very helpful.
You're welcome. Unfortunately, it's recorded because I will never say that ever again as eloquently. Thank you for an excellent question.
I know that I can address that from the opposite perspective of being told that, of being to that. And my spouse will times when things, he'd be, look at all these other wonderful things you've done and look at all the other things. And sometimes that you're absolutely right, that gentle approach, because then it kind of in your own head, you don't realize it. But then when folks are being like, maybe if you're kinder to yourself, maybe it's okay to let things go. I think that gives you like almost hearing it from somebody else's perspective. It almost gives you the freedom, or gives you, like you said, that you feel like you can do that. You can go ahead and be gentler with yourself. And I think honestly, being a good listener, because I know that there's been times where I've had some weird off the wall rants, and afterwards you'll tell me, do you feel better? Do you feel better? And I'm like, yeah, I think I feel better. Okay, good. Well, that's great. So sometimes just being a good listener and being gentle, I know that helped with me.
Do you have anything you would like to add to that, Mathematica?
I think sometimes just being reminded, like, you've done all this other really cool work, and like, even if it's not exactly the way you wanted it to be, like, it still looks amazing, and like, you're still talented, you're still very skilled, like that kind of thing too. That helps me sometimes. So,
Any other questions? Yes.
Okay, so was there ever anything that you come across, let's say, like a story or something that gave you thought, or something that would work for all three of you? Because I know this is weird because one of you is WCD, one of you is ADHD, but I think that's a combined version of like the three of you up there.
okay.
So that's why I was like wondering, like, has there been anything that you've come across that you find like doesn't just work for one but all? Like a lot of people, I know nothing's 100% of foolproof. Has there been any good thoughts or like way of thinking that helps you like they're not like the remind self is enough, or like you're too perfect, or feel like you're too imperfect? So has there ever been like some kind of tool that you have in your toolbox that even though Wednesday's meeting Wednesday, that kind of help with both sides?
I don't know. I kind of think like with our text messaging that like when we would be texting us about that group project, just words of affirmation that we just keep reminding each other gently. So I think words of affirmation really help.
Mm-hmm.
And just communicating, being very honest and communicating, I think is a big thing. Cause I know that all of us suffer with that we don't want. Are we being too honest? Are we being too, dumping these problems on somebody, or telling them, if I tell them that I, only have half of, working body, does that mean they're going to think less of me? And so I think just being that communication and communicating it and knowing that the people that you're around are going to be supportive, I think is the big thing I think that's worked for all of us. I think all of us have walked away from that text message going, okay, I feel better now about where we're at right now.
And I mean, kind of tagging onto that, I think all of us have reminded each other, like, hey, your health and well-being and your sanity
Absolutely.
is far more important than any project. And I mean, I have a friend who is actually sitting in the back who has on multiple occasions, one in particular gone, okay, quit being stupid. You need to take care of yourself. And I mean, this was when I was trying to work while I was sick. But I think reminding each other that, hey, our health and well-being is at the end of the day the most important thing, and like we can always delay a project or take extra time on a project if we need to. That I think has been really helpful for all of us. So, and like, you don't have to con crunch, and do not recommend it. I have done it too many times and I'm trying to avoid doing that now. But I think that has been, I think, one of the biggest helps.
And labels.
And
Labeling things, right? Labeling things, like, you know, nothing's better. Like, I know for me, like, out of sight, out of mind, and I have that lack of object permanence. So if I literally am not looking at something, I don't know. So I got the, you know, the idea from you from labeling things, and now it's great. I could just look at my boxes of stuff and be like, that's where the thing is, or yes, that's what's in there. So
Yeah.
labels, definitely.
labels.
And I'm hoping to redo my workroom soon, and I will also be labeling things.
Labels. And multiple labels on the same box.
Yes.
So on
you
top,
can see it from multiple angles.
on the side, on the ends. Don't be parsimonious with your labels. Be a hussy. Be a label hussy. Put them on everything.
Yeah.
I love labels. I love that we share that. But you know, I want to get a little saccharine. You knew it was coming. Community.
Yes, that too. That also really, really helps.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is to have a community, whether it is two people who are your dearest chums, whether you decide to build an entire social organization to support your desire to make weird historical fantasy fashion and have events.
And then you rope your friends into this. That's how we ended up here.
Yes.
Not so much roping as the let me take
yes.
let us join arms
Oh,
and
yes.
we're going to go off on this adventure.
Oh yes, like, oh hey, you're interested in this? Why don't you come with me?
Yes.
We'll go cause shenanigans together.
You know, the first hit of steampunk, it costs you nothing. Just a few hours with tea and biscuits. The next thing you know, you're making an entire dragon pirate. Yeah. So
I didn't take much encouragement.
no,
with
you
that
did not.
one.
You did not. But community, truly and sincerely, I think that may sound really like socialist and radical here for a moment, but I think there's a balance between individualism and, you know, collectivism. That going either way too hard can be to anyone's detriment. But here in this North American experience that we have, there's a huge focus on individualism. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. No one's read the original quote, so they don't get the irony. Or, you know, you've got to push through. You've got to be tenacious, or rewarding people for killing themselves to do something, when if they'd asked friends and did it in community, it would have been very much more attainable. So finding a group of people who will be kind and gentle and compassionate with you and say the things to you that you say to them. Because most of us can be really kind to other people, but we're really bad at being kind to ourselves. So it helps to have friends who will say to you, hussy, you don't need to get the weird dress done. Go to bed.
I think we've all done that to each
Or
other.
Yes.
or I love you. Have you eaten?
Yes, we do that all the time.
Have you gotten something to drink? I know you're in the weeds with this, but have you taken care of your vessel?
Have you gotten up and stretched?
Yes. we're at 2 minutes.
Yeah. So we have time for one last question. I'll try not to monologue. Yes.
Okay, so like pretty much kind of like, I guess when you're out of spoons and you're
Mhm.
really stressed out, so you have a hard time like then going into self-care mode. Is there a way that you found that helps you bring down your stress? Because sometimes you can't always switch like, oh, I used up my spoons, but you're like in panic mode, so you're not thinking clearly like, what do I need to make myself feel better?
If you want, I can start off.
Yeah.
So for me, I kind of have a rule of like, if I've made 2 dumb mistakes in a row, I need to be done for that time period. Like, no matter how stressed out I am, because if I've made 2 dumb mistakes in a row, especially if it's the same dumb mistake, because I have also done that, cute skirt that I sewed wrong twice last year, and I still don't know how I sewed it that way. But if I do 2 really dumb mistakes in a row, I'm done. It's like, okay, I need to step away. I need to go play with my dogs, cuddle my cat, make sure that I've gotten a snack. And sometimes that's really hard to do. But that's why I've had to put in that boundary of 2 dumb mistakes, and I'm done for now. I got to take a break. Because I have cut some things wrong that I didn't necessarily have the material to do it again. And it's like, okay, if I've already done this once, all right, no more. So that's kind of how I tackle it.
Spot on. It's absolutely spot on. I do that as well. Either that or if I have to do I'll do mindfulness breathing. And if I've had to do that more than twice with whatever I'm working on, I'm like, okay, you clearly are trying to calm yourself, self-soothe and calm yourself down on this. Maybe it's time to step away from it. But yeah, you're right. When you if you've had to twice, you've tried to sew in that sleeve and then you're like, you know what? That's it. I'm just going to walk away.
It's really hard to maintain that boundary with yourself, I think. And it's a really good one. It's one of mine as well. 2 mistakes, especially the same mistake, and I need to step away no matter what, no matter how close I am, no matter what. But it takes a lot of practice to develop that kind of boundary with yourself. And so I think the really unsatisfying answer is that you have to choose the boundaries and then you have to practice them.
Yeah.
And it just takes time, but you can do it. I believe in you.
It does get easier to enforce that boundary the more you practice it.
Yeah.
Not saying it ever gets truly easy, but it does get easier. And I also kind of have it where if I'm swearing nonstop, it's time to be done.
That's me all the time in the workroom, though.
I swear in the workroom anyways, but if I'm if it's nothing but swears, especially if my husband then comes in, it's like, you okay, honey? It's like, all right, we're done for the time being.
I also couldn't live by that rule. No.
I mean, fair.
Yeah, you've heard me talk.
I have heard you talk in the workroom.
So I think we're at time. And as much as I hate to say adieu, we must be good panelists for the next panelists who are coming in. So thank you for joining us. And we will hopefully see you around and about. We're upstairs in our little steampunk cabinet of curiosities. You should definitely come say hello. Also support our lovely charity for youth on their own. We have a gorgeous raffle basket full of tea and goodies, and you need it. I promise. It's really nice.
It's pretty delightful looking.
Yes.
And these 2 will definitely be gracing the presence there. I have one more panel tomorrow with some other chums, but generally speaking, we're all there all the time, hanging out, being charming. So come see us. Yeah.
And silly.
Yeah, that too. Cheers. Cheers.
Yeah.
There's like an X, but if you wait